This started out as a creative Firefly mood board with multiple ideas, and I turned it into these. If you're only generating in Photoshop, you're missing half the workflow. Explore in Firefly Boards. Create in Photoshop. Every artist knows that feeling. You're staring at a blank canvas, totally paralyzed. That where do I even start feeling is real, especially with surreal art where the possibilities are literally infinite. You might have a vague idea, but how do you get from fuzzy concept to finished, polished image? Today, we're going to crush that blank slate problem with Adobe's AI mood board tool, Firefly Boards. We'll use it to brainstorm 3 surreal concepts, and then we'll take those concepts over to Photoshop. This is the complete workflow from simple thought to final artwork, so you're going to see all the in-betweens. All right, let's get started. So here we are in Firefly Boards. To get to Firefly Boards, you just go to firefly.adobe.com/boards. And the great thing about boards is that you have an infinite canvas to play around with. So as you're coming up with AI images, you can put them all out here, take a look at them all at once, and make decisions. So for this first concept, it's a woman reading in an imaginary world. I used Firefly Image 3 to get the image of the woman with the book. You'd be surprised if your idea is pretty basic, like someone reading a book. Firefly Image 3 does a great job of not straying from your original idea. I used Gemini 2.5, the original Nano Banana, and I asked it to create a book cover for this image. So one thing to note, when you download images from Firefly Boards, you want to go to download and hit export as. If you want a high-res image, you need to do export as and then choose ping. So here we are in Photoshop, and we're going to do some compositing. So I've isolated parts of the book, and now I'm going to add some shading. So I've added a little bit of shading and even a little bit of color to the book jacket. I've isolated the woman, and now I'm going to hit harmonize. So with harmonize, it picks up some of the colors from the background and adds them to the foreground image and provides some color lighting and just makes it look like she's really in that world. It comes up with 3 different options. I like the light coming in from the side here on this one. This one, the lighting looks a little confused. And if you don't like what it came up with, you can always hit generate again. And here's the final image for concept 1. I was able to isolate different harmonize versions that highlighted different areas of her face and added some color in to get that kind of ethereal look. So we're back into Firefly Boards, and we're on to our second concept, which is a woman floating underwater and adding some surreal objects. One of the things I'm going to do is add some subprompts. And I'm going to do this by browsing some of Adobe Firefly's subprompts that can add just some fun color to your prompts. So although I found some other images, I really like this one of this woman floating in the water. And I found a couple more images of a few things that might float around in there with her. One of them was a rubber ducky. One of the cool things you can do in Firefly Boards is convert an image to 3D. I like this rubber ducky, but I kind of want it at another angle. With this 3D image, I'm able to rotate it to exactly the position I'm looking for. Okay, now we're in Photoshop and we're working on the second concept with this beautiful image, this beautiful underwater image, and we're going to add some objects floating around with her. Since all of these objects started out with different lighting, I think that's the reason why they have to be treated individually. If they were all in the same photo, they would all have the same source of light. But because they were photographed, I kind of composited them together. They need different harmonized lighting. And here's our final image with her floating in the water with the fish and the rubber ducky. So we're back in Firefly Boards for Concept 3, which is a man in headphones and a neon cyberpunk city behind him. So I'm excited to try and find some pretty cool images for this. The idea behind this is that the man in headphones, he's listening to some music, and the neon cyberpunk city in the background kind of represents what he's listening to. So we're starting out with the man in the headphones, and I'm going to do some quick edits to his face to kind of get it more blended. So then I asked the AI model to edit the image so that we could have a white sweatshirt on him and white headphones. Okay, so I'm been searching for a cyberpunk city. I decided to start with Firefly Image 4 to see if I could get something to start with, and it actually came up with some amazing and beautiful images. So I'm going to place a few of these on the canvas and look at them. This looks amazing. I could see some of this light getting onto him and his white. So that's the other reason why I chose white for the sweatshirt and for the headphones, because Harmonize in Photoshop might pick up on some of these other colors and add them to his white headphones and sweatshirt, kind of like a canvas. So we're back in Photoshop for Concept 3. And what we're going to do is we're going to start off by removing his background. And I'm excited to see what some of these colors are going to look like when they are harmonized with him. So I think the first one actually looks pretty good, and then I would probably composite him on top of that. But let's check out some of these other ones. So I landed on this harmonized layer for this image, and I just love how there's a little bit of blue coming in on the left, and there's this glowy warm color coming in on the right. But one thing that happens a lot with Harmonize is that it kind of flattens things out a little bit, even though it's adding some lighting in some places. So one of the things I like to do is actually put the foreground image on again in front, and then kind of just play around with ways to add back in some of the details that have been lost a little bit. Do you see the difference between with it added in and playing around with the layer settings? Really added in some shadows back in that were lost by doing the harmonized layer. I'm going to soften this up just a little bit by decreasing the opacity just a little to get a little bit more of that colored light in there. So there you have it. We went from a paralyzing blank page to a board full of solid ideas in Firefly. Then we assembled and polished each concept into a finished masterpiece in Photoshop. This workflow is the key takeaway. Ideate in Firefly Boards, assemble in Photoshop. Now I want to see what you create. What surreal worlds will you build? Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.